This video might be a little bit controversial because I'm going to share with you my concept for how I get efficient results with Invisalign, consistent results with a minimum of attachments. So here's a patient who came in with some crowding. This was relapse from prior treatment. She had a Warner retainer for about 10 years. And here you see where we are at the end of one round of aligners. So we just have a tiny bit more alignment to go. This is 4.5 months of aligners, and then we'll need maybe another 2 months of refinement. If you look at it in this view, this certainly looks like a sound plan to resume the expansion and complete the alignment like you see here. Now, on the lower teeth, there's crowding, and it's much less now, and we still have about another 2 months to go to make that ideal. So let me show you, though, from the front view. I'm going to focus on where we are now. I'm going to remove the original positions. So the Clincheck came back. I just showed it to you in the occlusal view. No problem with it. But you've got to look from the front, and what you'll see is a movement of that central incisor that is not necessary at all. And if you don't look at it from the front, you might miss it. What would happen is the dark triangle would open. There would be a very slight amount of mesial root torque added to that tooth, and it's really not needed. So that's the first correction I'm going to make, is I'm going to remove that movement because it's not hard. It's hard to achieve. It requires an attachment, and it would open up a dark triangle. The incisal edge to me looks fine right now, so I'm going to leave it as is. Look at the left central. There is a bit of a slant up to the left of the incisal edge, so the Clincheck is programmed to line up that edge. But that also would require a distal root torque that we just don't need. And I'm fine sacrificing the slight natural wear of that incisal edge so that I don't have to put an attachment. You have no chance to get that root to move distally, even the tiniest bit, without an attachment. And a lot of times the Clinchecks come back with attachments because those are indeed required for these innocent movements that really aren't necessary. So there my dark triangle remains the same. Now let's look at the lateral incisor. This is where things might get controversial. I could sort of see how maybe the tooth might look better in that position, but the alignment looks much better now. And when I make that tooth rotate out on the mesial, it's going to look better. But when you try to rotate it out on the mesial and make the root move distal, that's a compound movement where you're moving that tooth in different planes. Much harder to do, requires an attachment, especially for a short tooth. So I'm going to just simply remove this root torque. And now you see how you don't see it moving at all. And that incisal edge is fine. And I believe the same thing was happening on this tooth as well. You see these little finishing movements, if you didn't catch this. And if you didn't put attachments on, not only maybe they wouldn't have played out, but you wouldn't maintain the grip on the teeth. And then you wouldn't even achieve the movement that you're setting out to achieve, which is really just a rotation of those lateral incisors. So now I have a much easier plan. And one more thing, if you look at the palatal root torque, I'm going to push the envelope here. I do not need that root to move palatally. I'm going to push that back. Now you see it's just rotating a little bit, but the root isn't moving back. From the facial standpoint, to me, the roots look okay. So I have adjusted my Clincheck to play to the strengths of the aligners.